Two cocky cops raided a black woman's home, mocked her in court as a nobody, until she revealed she's the head of National Civil Security, a federal powerhouse. Their body cams exposed the truth, igniting a courtroom firestorm that toppled them and sparked a nationwide uproar. From Detroit's streets to Senate halls, her fight unveiled a broken system. Justice rose, but the battle's just begun. This is her story, watch it unfold. The Detroit night pressed heavy over Brightmoor, a late summer haze blending the hum of distant traffic with the faint metallic tang of rust from the city's crumbling factories. A breeze slipping through the cracked asphalt of Fenmore Street. Inside a modest brick house, its paint peeling at the edges, Camille Jackson sat at her kitchen table, the glow of a single lamp casting soft shadows across a stack of files stamped with the seal of the National Civil Security Administration. At 42, she carried a quiet strength, her short hair swept back in a practical twist, her navy blazer draped over the chair's worn cushion, her dark eyes sharp and steady, honed by years leading a federal agency few understood, but all in power respected. Her phone buzzed on the table, a DC number, urgent, flashing 9:47 p.m., and she reached for it, fingers brushing the screen, when the front door exploded inward with a deafening crack, wood splintering under the force of a battering ram. Two white cops stormed across the threshold, boots thudding on the scuffed hardwood, flashlights slicing through the dim like knives. Officer Brent Kyle, 35, broad-shouldered and loud, led the charge, his buzz cut glinting under the kitchen light, his voice a bark that rattled the windows. "Hands up now! Don't move! Don't even breathe!" Officer Mark Dade, 32, wiry and quick, followed close, his hand resting on his holster, his narrow face split by a smirk as his eyes darted around, hunter sizing prey. Papers fluttered to the floor, NCSA letterhead stark against the linoleum, as Camille raised her hands slow and deliberate, her voice steady as tempered glass. "This is my home. I'm Camille Jackson. What's this about?" Kyle laughed, a sharp, mean sound that bounced off the walls, stepping closer until his shadow loomed over her. "Nice try, lady. Heard that one a dozen times. Suspicious activity? Break-in tip from a concerned neighbor. You're coming with us, hands behind your back." Dade circled, kicking a chair aside with a scrape, his smirk widening. "Yeah, real cozy spot. Looks like a dope den to me." Camille stood, her calm unbroken, her gaze locking on Kyle as he yanked cuffs from his belt. "I'm director of the National Civil Security Administration. Check my ID, it's in my blazer. Call it in before you make a mistake." Dade snorted, grabbing her arm rougher than needed, the cold steel of the cuffs clicking tight around her wrists. "Director of what? National Bullshit Administration? Save it for the judge, sweetheart, you're nobody special." Kyle smirked, snatching her phone from the table and tossing it into a drawer, ignoring the NCSA badge peeking from her blazer pocket as he shoved it aside. "Big shot, huh? Tell it to the sob sisters downtown. Move!" They hauled her out, her bare arms chilled by the night air, neighbors peering through parted blinds as the squad car's lights flashed red and blue across the street, a siren giving one short wail. The files lay scattered, classified headers unread, a storm brewing in their wake. By morning, the Wayne County Courthouse loomed over Detroit's haze, a gray hulk of concrete and glass, its steps slick with overnight rain. Courtroom 3 already buzzing with a thin but restless crowd. Reporters slouched in the back, pencils poised. Locals craning necks from the worn wooden benches. A bored clerk shuffling dockets with a yawn. Camille sat at the defendant's table, her wrists still cuffed, hidden under a borrowed jacket from a court aide, her silence a wall as officers Kyle and Dade lounged near the prosecution's table, trading grins like schoolyard bullies. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting a harsh glare on the scuffed linoleum, the air thick with the murmur of anticipation and the faint smell of stale coffee. Judge Harold Vance, 60, grizzled and broad, his gray hair thinning under the weight of years, banged his gavel once, the crack cutting through the hum. Order, let's get this moving, he growled, his voice rough from too many cigarettes, peering over wire-rimmed glasses at the docket. State v. Jackson, trespass, resisting arrest, disorderly conduct. Officers, your side, make it quick. The gallery shifted. A reporter in a faded jacket scribbling, routine bust? Kyle strutted forward, chest puffed under his crisp uniform, his smirk curling as he faced Vance. Caught her last night in a hot spot. Shady house on Fenmore. No ID when we asked. Mouthing off like she owned the place. Typical trouble. Resisted when we cuffed her. Dade nodded, leaning back with arms crossed, his smirk sharper. Yeah, real piece of work, said she's some bigwig. National security something. Hilarious, right? Just a loud nobody playing tough. The gallery chuckled, a low ripple of amusement, two women in the back whispering, she wish. And the reporter jotted, cops mock suspect. Vance frowned, rubbing his jaw, his eyes sliding to Camille, who sat still, her face a mask of calm, her hands folded beneath the table. Ma'am, Vance said, leaning forward, his tone gruff but curious. You got anything to say? This ain't a stage for games. Speak up or we move on. The room hushed, all eyes on her, Kyle and Dade's grins widening, waiting for her to fumble. Camille rose slow, the cuffs clinking softly, as she adjusted the jacket. Her voice low but piercing, cutting the air like a blade through fog. I'm Camille Jackson, Director of the National Civil Security Administration, appointed by the President of the United States. These officers raided my home without cause, ignored my identity, my badge, my files, and mocked me here. I'm no trespasser. I'm their oversight. Check the record. The room locked up. Kyle's grin vanished, his face draining to chalk. Dade's jaw dropped, his arms falling limp. The gallery gasped, sharp and collective, a pen clattering to the floor from a reporter's stunned hand. Vance blinked, his glasses slipping as he leaned closer, voice hoarse. Say that again, slow. Camille did, her calm unshaken, each word a stone dropping into still water. Camille Jackson, Director, National Civil Security Administration. Federal authority over civil enforcement. I was arrested in my own home, and they laughed. The courtroom tipped into chaos. Reporters shouting, Who? What's that mean? A woman in the gallery whispering, Oh, Lord, as Kyle stammered, She's lying. And Dade stared, frozen, his smirk a ghost. Vance banged his gavel, 3 hard cracks, his face reddening. Quiet, bailiff, get me her file, now. The aide scrambled, papers rustling, as the cop's bravado crumbled, the weight of her words sinking in. Detroit's haze pressed outside, but inside, a storm had just begun. The Wayne County Courthouse quaked with the aftershock of Camille Jackson's words. Courtroom 3. A pressure cooker of stunned silence, shattered by gasps, murmurs, and the creak of old wooden benches straining under a restless crowd. The fluorescent lights buzzed louder overhead, their harsh glare bouncing off the scuffed linoleum floor, casting jagged shadows on the walls as the air thickened with sweat, stale coffee, and the raw edge of anticipation. Judge Harold Vance leaned over his bench, his grizzled face flushed a deep red, his wire-rimmed glasses slipping down his nose, fogging slightly from the heat of his own breath. Director of what? He barked, his voice hoarse and gravelly, gavel still clenched in his meaty fist, knuckles whitening as he gripped it like a lifeline. Camille stood tall at the defendant's table, her cuffed wrists glinting faintly under the borrowed jacket, her calm a steel rod piercing the storm. National Civil Security Administration, she repeated, slow and deliberate, each syllable dropping like a stone into a still pond, her dark eyes locking on Vance with unyielding clarity. Federal oversight for civil enforcement appointed by the President of the United States. These officers raided my home on Fenmore Street without cause, ignored my badge, my files, my identity, and brought me here to mock me. The gallery detonated, reporters shouting over each other, voices tangling in a frantic chorus. National Civil, what? She's federal? Who's she oversee? A woman in a green coat clutched her purse, gasping loud enough to cut through. "Lord have mercy. They're done." Her whisper slicing the din like a blade. Officer Brent Kyle stumbled back a step, his broad frame shrinking, as if the air had been punched out of him, his chalk-pale face glistening with sweat that streaked down his buzz-cut temples, his stammer breaking the silence. "She's lying. She didn't say that. Not clear." Officer Mark Dade froze beside him, his wiry arms falling limp, his smirk wiped clean, his narrow eyes darting to Kyle like a cornered dog seeking an exit, his breath hitching as he mouthed something silent, no sound escaping. The crowd's murmur swelled, a man in a lion's cap leaning forward, muttering, "They're toast, man," his voice low but sharp. A reporter in a faded jacket scribbling furiously. "Cops blindsided. Suspect flips script." His pencil nearly snapping under the pressure. Vance slammed his gavel again. 3 sharp cracks that rattled the windows and sent a loose paper fluttering from the clerk's desk. "Quiet! I said quiet, damn it!" his voice boomed, echoing off the high ceiling, but his eyes flicked to Camille, a flicker of doubt creasing his weathered brow, his cigarette-roughened growl softening with a trace of unease. "Bailiff, get her file, move now!" The aide, a lanky kid with a buzz cut and a nervous tic, scrambled to the clerk's desk, his sneakers squeaking on the floor as papers flew from his hands, scattering like leaves in a gust. The clerk, a middle-aged woman with tired eyes, fumbled through the docket stack, her earlier yawn replaced by wide-eyed panic as she flipped pages, her voice trembling. "It's not here, Judge. Nothing on her. No record. Nothing." Vance's jaw tightened, his thick neck bulging as he swung his glare to Kyle and Dade, his glasses glinting under the lights. "You two, explain this right now, and it better be good." Kyle squared his shoulders, a flicker of bravado sparking back to life, his voice loud but shaky, cracking at the edges like thin ice. "She's making it up, Your Honor. Pure con job. Suspicious house. Fenmore's a hotspot. No ID we saw. Resisted the whole way. She's playing you, playing us all." Dade stepped forward, nodding fast, his smirk twitching back into place like a muscle memory, though his eyes betrayed a wild edge. "Yeah, all talk. Said some fancy title last night, something about security, but no badge, no proof, just a loudmouth trying to squirm out. We did our job." The gallery hissed, a woman in a blue scarf muttering, "Liars, both of them," her voice sharp enough to draw a nod from the man beside her. The reporter jotting, "Officers double down, denial shaky." Camille didn't flinch, her silence louder than their bluster, her hands still folded beneath the table, cuffs clinking faintly as she shifted, her calm a wall they couldn't breach. The bailiff burst back through the side door, breathless, a cordless phone pressed to his ear, his young face ashen as if he'd seen a ghost. "Judge, I called it in. Feds confirm it, sir. Camille Jackson, Director. National Civil Security Administration. Active since 22, appointed by the President." "They're sending someone now. ETA 20 minutes." The room spun into pandemonium. Kyle's knees buckled slightly, his hand gripping the table to steady himself, his stammer rising. That's not..." Dade's mouth opened, no sound coming, his wiry frame slumping as his eyes widened, staring at Camille like she'd grown horns. The gallery surged with shouts. "What? Feds? She's their boss?" Reporters leaping to their feet, phones out. A woman in the back yelling, "Get their badges!" Vance dropped his gavel, the thud swallowed by the uproar, his voice roaring over the chaos. "You raided a federal director's home? On what grounds? Where's your damn warrant?" Kyle's voice cracked, his broad chest heaving. "Break-in tip, anonymous call we didn't need." Dade cut in, desperate, his smirk gone, hands flailing. "She resisted. We thought she was lying, thought it was a stash house." Their voices tangled, excuses fraying like wet rope, sweat streaking their uniforms as the gallery jeered, "Liar!" "Check the cams," Camille spoke again, her voice slicing through like a blade, calm and cold. No warrant, no cause. They kicked in my door, ignored my badge in plain sight on my blazer, ignored my files, cuffed me, mocked me all the way here. Check their body cams, it's all recorded. Every word, every laugh. The gallery roared louder. Reporters shouting, "Body cams now!" Bleh. "Play it!" A man in a gray hoodie standing, fists clenched. "They're cooked!" Vance's face darkened to a deep crimson, his fist pounding the bench so hard the gavel bounced, his growl shaking the room. "Cams, now! I want that footage in my hands. Prosecution. What the hell is this mess?" The prosecutor, a thin man in a cheap suit with a sheen of sweat on his forehead, stood trembling, his hands fumbling with his tie. "Your Honor, will review immediately. Drop charges pending investigation. We had no idea." His voice trailed off, drowned by the gallery's swell, as Vance waved him off with a furious swipe, his glare pinning Kyle and Dade like bugs under glass. "You're done here. Sit down. Don't move a muscle. We're adjourning till I see that footage and talk to these feds. Bailiff, secure those cams. Go." The gavel fell, a final crack splitting the air, and the room burst into a frenzy. Reporters racing for the doors, phones buzzing, the clerks scrambling to keep up, Kyle and Dade sinking into their chairs, faces blank with dread. Camille's calm, unshaken, her eyes steady on Vance as the storm broke wide open. Outside, Detroit's haze pressed against the courthouse windows, the city's pulse quickening with whispers of what had just begun. A reckoning no one saw coming. Courtroom 3, reconvening 2 hours after Camille Jackson's bombshell. The air now electric with the hum of anticipation and the faint crackle of a TV cart wheeled in by the bailiff. The gallery had swelled, reporters doubled, locals packed shoulder to shoulder, a knot of activists whispering in the back. Their "Justice Now" signs tucked under benches. Judge Harold Vance sat hunched at his bench, his grizzled face set hard, glasses perched low as he glared at officers Brent Kyle and Mark Dade, who slouched near the prosecution, sweat staining their uniforms, eyes darting like trapped rats. Camille remained at the defendant's table, her calm unshaken, cuffs removed now, her navy blazer retrieved and draped over her shoulders, a silent badge of her authority. Vance banged his gavel, the crack slicing through the buzz. "Order. Let's see this mess. Bailiff, play the footage." The lanky kid fumbled with the remote, his hands shaky as the screen flickered to life. Body cam feeds from Kyle and Dade. Time-stamped 9:47 p.m., Fenmore Street. The room hushed, all eyes locked as the grainy video rolled. Kyle's cam first, the door splintering under his ram, his bark loud. "Hands up now!" Camille at her table, files scattering, her voice steady. "This is my home. I'm Camille Jackson, Director of National Civil Security." Kyle's laugh, sharp and mean. "Yeah, right. Cuff her, Dade." Dade's feed cut in, his smirk clear as he twisted her arm. "National what?" "Bullshit. Move, sweetheart." The NCSA badge glinting on her blazer, ignored as he shoved it aside. The gallery gasped, sharp, collective. A woman in a blue scarf, whispering, "They saw it." Reporters scribbled, "Cops mocked Fed," phones recording the screen. Kyle shifted, his broad frame sinking lower, muttering, "That's edited." Dade's jaw clenched, his wiry hands gripping the table, silent now. Vance's face darkened, his fist slamming the bench. "You saw her badge, heard her, and laughed? Explain that." Kyle stood, voice trembling, bravado gone. "We thought she was lying, Your Honor. Anonymous tip. Hotspot. She resisted." Dade nodded, desperate. "Yeah, no proof. Just talk. We didn't know." The gallery jeered. "Liar." "You knew," a man shouting. "Play it again." Vance waved the bailiff on, the footage looping. Camille's calm. "Check my ID," Kyle's sneer. "Big shot, huh?" Dade's shove, her files hitting the floor. NCSA seal stark. The room roared, a reporter yelling, "They're done!" The prosecutor rose, sweating, his cheap suit wrinkled. "Your Honor, charges dropped, full investigation pending. We're pulling the cams. Logs. Vance cut him off, his growl fierce. Pending. This is misconduct, right here. You two off the case, under review. Feds are here. Deal with them. The door swung open. Two suits in black, NCSA agents, strode in, badges flashing, faces stone. The lead, a tall woman named Agent Reese, spoke crisp. Camille Jackson's our director. Raid's illegal. No warrant, no tip verified. We're taking this federal. Kyle bolted up, face red. We didn't know. She's nobody. Dade echoed. Yeah, a setup. Reese's eyes narrowed, handing Vance a file. NCSA credentials, raid logs. Nothing. They knew. Cams prove it. Indictment's coming. The gallery surged. Cheers, shouts. Fire 'em. Vance's gavel pounded, his voice a thunderclap. Enough. Adjourned, feds, take over. You two stay put, badges on my desk. Kyle and Dade sank, faces blank as Camille stood, her gaze steady. The storm hers now. The Wayne County Courthouse exhaled into a tense Detroit dusk. Courtroom 3 emptying, as the gallery spilled onto the city's slick streets, rain drumming the pavement in a steady tattoo. The buzz of Camille Jackson's vindication rippling beyond the gray concrete walls, like a shockwave, through still water. Inside, Judge Harold Vance lingered at his bench. His grizzled face still flushed a deep red. His wire-rimmed glasses fogged with the heat of his breath as he stared at the blank TV screen. The body cam footage's echo. Kyle's sharp laugh. Dade's rough shove. Camille's steady, I'm their oversight, burned into the room's heavy silence. Officers. Brent Kyle and Mark Dade slumped in a cramped side room off the main hall, their badges surrendered in a clatter on Vance's desk, their uniforms damp with sweat that clung to their backs, faces blank with a mix of dread and disbelief. NCSA agent Laura Reese, a tall woman with a no-nonsense stare, and her partner, Agent Miguel Torres, a stern man with a buzz cut, and a jaw like granite, loomed over them, flipping through the raid file with deliberate precision. Pages of notes, timestamps, nothing adding up. Camille stood near the clerk's desk, her navy blazer buttoned now, the faint creases from the night's chaos smoothed out. Her calm, unshaken, as she spoke low to Reese. Her voice, a quiet command. Get their logs, their tip, every second since last night, phone records, radio chatter, all of it. This wasn't random. Outside, Detroit churned under a darkening sky, the city's pulse quickening as the news broke wide. Reporters swarmed the courthouse steps, shouting into mics over the rain's hiss, their voices a tangle of urgency. Federal director raided in her own home, cops caught mocking her on cam. Camille Jackson, NCSA head, turns tables. A phone's lit up X. # Camille. Jackson trending within minutes. Clips of the body cam footage leaking fast from a court leak. Kyle's sneer. Big shot, huh? Dade's bullshit move, sweetheart. Camille's files, scattering across her kitchen floor. Views rocketed past 1 million in an hour. Comments flooding in a torrent. Fire 'em now. System's rotten, top to bottom. She's their boss, holy shit. Us holia. A Channel 7 news van screeched to a stop, its tires skidding on wet asphalt. A reporter, in a yellow slicker, leaping out, breathless, into her mic. Detroit PD under fire. Feds step in after a stunning courtroom twist. The crowd swelled, activists spilling from the courthouse, chanting, No more lies, no more lies. A man in a gray hoodie waving a soaked sign. Justice for Camille! Neighbors from Fenmore Street joining, their voices raw. That's our street, they trashed her! But Detroit's haze thickened with rain and smoke, but its heartbeat thumped louder, a city waking to a reckoning. By nightfall, the NCSA moved with surgical speed. Reese and Torres hauled Kyle and Dade to a federal holding room downtown, a stark concrete box in the U.S. Attorney's building. The cops stammered excuses. We didn't know. It was a tip, we swear. Met with Reese's cold, unflinching reply. You did. Cams don't lie, and neither does her badge. Their wrists clicked into cuffs again. This time, federal steel. Their uniforms traded for gray jumpsuits as Torres read charges. False arrest, civil rights violations. His voice flat, unyielding. Vance, still in his chambers, handed the case up, his growl curt over the phone to the U.S. Attorney's office. "Take it. I'm done with this mess. It's yours now." He slammed the receiver down, rubbing his temples as the footage hit national news. CNN looping the raid's chaos. Kyle's laugh echoing. Dade's bullshit, a punchline. Camille's steady, "I'm their oversight," a quiet thunderclap. Pundits leaned into mics, voices sharp with shock. "This is huge. NCSA's untouchable, runs civil enforcement coast to coast." "How'd they not know?" X flared hotter. Hack Detroit PD down, trending past 2 million. Demands piling. "Fire 'em. Audit every precinct." "How deep does this go, Chief 2? Next morning, the precinct buckled under the weight of its own collapse. Chief Ed Rollins, a burly man with a gray mustache and a perpetual scowl, faced a wall of cameras outside the 4th precinct, his voice tight, words clipped as rain streaked his face. "We're cooperating fully, reviewing all actions from last night. Officers Kyle and Dade are suspended without pay, pending federal charges." Reporters pressed in, mics thrusting forward, voices overlapping. "Chief, was it misconduct, racism? How'd they miss her ID?" Rollins dodged, his jaw twitching, eyes sliding off the lenses. "Investigations ongoing, internal and federal. That's all for now." He turned away, shoulders stiff, but the cameras caught the tremble in his hands, the crack in his armor. Inside, the precinct buzzed with fracture. Cops clustered in the break room, some furious, voices low and bitter. "They screwed us all, idiots!" Others quiet, heads down over coffee. "She's their boss, shit, we're next." A rookie muttered to a vet, "Ever seen this?" The vet shook his head. "Not like this. Feds don't play." The NCSA dug deeper. Camille at a field office on Jefferson Avenue, her voice firm as she paced a conference room. Walls lined with maps and screens. "Pull every raid log 6 months back, patterns, tips, warrants, anything off. This wasn't one mistake." Reese nodded, files stacking on the table. Dozens of raids, shaky tips, no warrants, her brown eyes sharp as she cross-checked dates. Torres dialed DC, a third agent on speaker, voice urgent. "We've got a live one. 6 precincts flagged. Detroit's just the tip." Camille paused, tracing a log. 3 raids, same block. No cause listed. "They've been running loose. Find the chain." Her phone buzzed. A White House aide. "Ma'am, POTUS wants a brief. Senate's calling tomorrow." She nodded, calm. "Tell them I'm ready." By noon, the U.S. attorney filed. Kyle and Dade hit with false arrest, civil rights violations, obstruction, more counts pending as NCSA data poured in. The courthouse buzzed again. Arraignment set for Friday. Vance recused with a curt, "I'm out." A federal judge tapped. Her name whispered, "Judge Ellis, tough as nails." "Bakache." X exploded. Hasher justice for Camille topping 5 million. Protests planned in Chicago, Atlanta, LA. A senator tweeting, "NCSA raid demands answers. Senate Judiciary is watching close." Camille faced the press outside the field office, rain streaking her blazer. Her voice clear above the crowd's roar. "This isn't about me, it's about trust, about every door kicked, every voice ignored. They broke it, not just mine. Fixing it starts now." The crowd cheered, fists up, a woman shouting, "We're with you!" But Camille's eyes held a question, her gaze distant. How far would this crack? How many would fall? Kyle and Dade sat silent and holding. Badges gone, jumpsuits creased. The storm breaking wide beyond their concrete walls. Detroit's reckoning swelling into a national tide. The Wayne County Courthouse pulsed with a raw, unrelenting edge by Friday morning. Courtroom 1 packed tighter than a drum as the arraignment of officers Brent Kyle and Mark Dade loomed. The air thick with the damp musk of rain-soaked coats, the rustle of restless bodies, and the faint hum of anticipation that clung to every breath. The gallery had tripled since Camille Jackson's bombshell rocked Detroit. Reporters lined the back wall. their cameras rolling with red lights blinking, pencils scratching notes in a frantic rhythm. Activists stood shoulder to shoulder along the aisles, their "Justice Now" signs banned by court order, but their fists clenched tight, their whispers sharp with defiance. Locals filled the worn wooden benches, craning necks, murmuring to neighbors, some from Fenmore Street itself, their faces etched with a mix of pride and fury. Detroit's reckoning had ballooned into a national spotlight. The city's gray haze outside pierced by the glare of news vans and the distant chant of a growing crowd. Federal Judge Lena Ellis, 55, presided, her sharp eyes cutting through the room like a blade, her silver-streaked hair pulled back in a severe bun, her gavel resting on the bench like a quiet threat. She banged it once, the crack slicing the buzz, her voice crisp and commanding. "Order U.S. From Kyle and Dade. False arrest, civil rights violations, obstruction of justice, 14 counts total. Counsel, let's move." Camille sat in the front row, her navy blazer pressed crisp despite the week's chaos. Her calm, a steady pulse in the storm. Her dark eyes fixed forward, unflinching. NCSA agents Laura Reese and Miguel Torres flanked her, their black suits a wall of federal steel. Reese's tall frame rigid, Torres's stern jaw set, both radiating quiet menace. Across the room, Kyle and Dade stood at the defense table, their gray jumpsuits creased and ill-fitting, a far cry from the crisp uniforms they'd worn days ago. Kyle, his broad shoulders slouched under the weight of his hollowed gaze, his buzz cut damp with sweat, his thick hands twitching as they gripped the table's edge. Dade's wiry frame seemed to shrink, his narrow face pale, his fingers trembling, as he fumbled with a water cup, spilling it across his papers. Their lawyer, a nervous man named Richard Pratt with thinning hair and a cheap suit, stood beside them, his hands fumbling a stack of notes, his voice already quavering as he adjusted his tie. The U.S. Attorney, Sarah Lynn, rose from the prosecution table, a lean woman in a tailored gray suit, her voice cutting through the room like a scalpel. "Your Honor, defendants raided Director Camille Jackson's home without a warrant, ignored her NCSA badge in plain sight, mocked her identity on camera, and falsified their report. Evidence is airtight, body cam footage, raid logs, their own words." She clicked a remote and the screen flared to life, Kyle's cam rolling, his bark loud. "Hands up now!" Camille's steady, "I'm Director of National Civil Security," met with his sharp laugh. "Yeah, right. Cuff her, Dade." Dade's feed followed, his smirk clear. "National what? Bullshit. Move, sweetheart." Shoving her as the NCSA badge glinted on her blazer. Ignored. The gallery inhaled sharp and collective. A woman in a red coat whispering, "They knew." A man in a lion's cap muttering, "Disgrace. Pure disgrace." Reporters scribbled furiously. Cops mocked Fed chief. Phones tilting to capture the screen as the footage looped. Kyle's sneer. "Big shot, huh?" Dade's rough push. Camille's files scattering across her kitchen floor. The NCSA seal stark against the linoleum. Pratt rose, his voice shaky, cracking under the weight of the room's glare. "Not guilty, Your Honor. My clients acted on an anonymous tip. No intent to violate rights. A misunderstanding." Ellis cut him off, her eyes narrowing to slits, her tone icy. "A tip? No record exists, no warrant filed, your clients laughed at her ID, shoved her, ignored federal credentials. Save it. Please now." Kyle stood, his broad chest heaving, his mutter barely audible. "Not guilty." His defiance a thin thread fraying fast. Dade echoed. "Not guilty." His voice a whisper, his hands clenching the table as the gallery jeered. "Liars." "You're done," a woman in the back shouting. "Play it again." Jealous raised a hand, silencing the roar, her gavel cracking once. "Bail set, $500,000 each, cash or bond. Detained pending trial in 6 weeks, deputies, take them." Kyle bolted upright, face red, roaring. "This is bullshit! She set us up!" Dade stayed silent, head dropping as deputies cuffed them, the steel clicking loud in the hush. Kyle's outburst fading into a growl as they were hauled out. his thick frame shrinking. Dade's wiry steps stumbling. The gallery's cheers swallowing their exit. Outside, Detroit roared. The rain had stopped, but the streets swelled with protests. A sea of voices chanting, "No more badges, no more lies," echoing off the courthouse's concrete facade, horns blaring as traffic snarled around the crowd. X hit Nashgar Justice for Camille at 10 million posts, the footage looping viral. CNN Live with NCSA heads raid sparks national fury, pundits leaning into mics. "This is a watershed, police accountability's on trial now." Chief Ed Rollins faced cameras at the 4th Precinct that afternoon, his burly frame dwarfed by the press wall, his gray mustache twitching as he spoke grim and clipped. "Kyle and Dade are terminated, effective immediately. Departments auditing 6 months of raids, cooperating with feds." Reporters pressed. "Systemic failure? Racism?" Rollins sidestepped. "Full reviews underway. Feds have it." But his eyes dodged, hands clenched behind his back as he turned away. The precinct's glass doors slamming shut behind him. The NCSA's probe widened fast. Reese and Torres at the Jefferson Avenue field office. Files stacking high. 50 raids flagged across Detroit alone. 12 precincts now under review. Patterns emerging. Fake tips. Scrubbed logs. No warrants. Reese briefed Camille in a stark conference room, her voice low. "It's systemic. 6 months shows dozens off book. Fenmore's not unique." Camille nodded, tracing a log, 3 raids, 1 block, no cause, her tone firm. "Keep digging, chain of command, who signed off?" Torres dialed DC, a 3rd agent on speaker. "We've got 20 cities reporting now, same playbook." A Senate hearing loomed, Camille set to testify Tuesday. Her voice steady on C-SPAN prep. "This is everywhere, trust broken, not just here." By night, indictments rolled, 10 more Detroit officers tied to fake raids. Rollins resigned under pressure. His exit quiet, a memo leaked. "Can't lead this storm." Protests hit 20 cities. Chicago's Loop, Atlanta's Peachtree, LA's downtown. X ablaze with house overhaul now. Millions demanding, "Clean it out!" And the White House weighed in, a rare statement. "Reforms urgent, law must serve." A bill drafted fast. Camille's Law, mandating body cams. Federal oversight, named for her stand. She faced cameras outside her patched Fenmore door days later. The rain gone. Her blazer crisp, her tone firm above the crowd's swell. "Justice starts here. It's every street, every voice ignored. They broke trust. We rebuild it, but you keep pushing." Cheers erupted, fists up. A woman shouting, "We're with you, Camille!" A kid waving, "You're the boss." But her eyes lingered on a burned-out streetlight, its glass cracked, change rising, shadows deep. The fight far from won. Months later, Kyle and Dade's trial loomed. Guilty pleas whispered in back rooms. Detroit quieter but watchful. The precinct's halls half empty. New rules posted, cams on, logs checked. Camille walked Fenmore at dusk, her blazer swapped for a sweater. Files under her arm. Kids biking past. One yelling, "You're the lady from TV!" She smiled, faint, nodding. "Keep writing, okay?" A cop car passed slow, its driver's eyes on her, radio crackling. Tension lingered. Reform crept. A Senate probe widened. She paused at her stoop, the patched door a scar. Her gaze distant, trust mending. Cracks still wide. The tide turning but not turned. Her work a flame yet to fade. Thank you all for watching this video. Please comment and let me know what you think about this story. Please like and subscribe to watch more great content on my channel.